Hello, Humble Nation. I'm Nathaniel, and this is what you need to know today. So, we have a special guest with us today, and it happens to be my sister Tammy. Many of y'all know her from social media on Twitter, big contributor of Humble. And so, we just thought we'd have a little fun today. It's been a little while since I've actually done a video, and I've been super busy, but that doesn't mean there hasn't been things to talk about with Humble. Lots of things happening, and I wanted to bring everybody up to speed with some of these things and some of the things we can expect to see from Humble as well. But before I go any further, I have to tell you, like I tell you on every video, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not a stockbroker. Everything I talk about on this channel are our thoughts and opinions, and you should always do your own research whenever you're looking to invest or speak to somebody who is a professional that does that. So what are we going to talk about today? Well, there's lots of things happening. We've got the Olympics. We have some Olympic athletes that Humble has signed on that has happened in the last few weeks, with like Gabby Thomas, who's going to be running here in just a few hours. And so we'll see what transpires with that. And the interesting thing about, these athletes that have signed on with Humble, they all are representing Humble in the coming year, which is really exciting. So Tammy, what do you think about that?
Well, I think it's exciting. I think they've situated themselves, they set themselves up to really have a great, kind of niche here where they've selected some great athletes that have really made their mark already. They've already proven their status in the sports world. And so they're capitalizing obviously on this opportunity because they are names that are well known. So it's really a great, exciting thing. And it's be interesting to see how they utilize that in the next year.
Yeah, and I like you brought out a good point a little while ago about the fact that, these professional athletes, they're not going to just sign up with anybody, because wherever they sign up also represents them, So I remember you mentioning that. So, and we just had a podcast this past week with Brian Foote, with Gabby Thomas. So again, another point you brought out was that likely because Gabby Thomas was going to be running, Brian Foote wanted to go ahead and push out a podcast. And Gabby Thomas, she mentioned that this is her first podcast that she's ever done. And you could tell she was kind of excited about it with Brian Foote.
Absolutely.
And then we've got iHeartRadio, the podcast is going to be starting at Humbl Studios there in Los Angeles, California. So lots of things happening. Any things that particularly stand out in your mind?
Well, of course, the patents are going to be published in August, at least the one for the Instant Settlement Network. And that I think is scheduled for August 3rd. And that has 30-day sort of time frame until it actually is official. I guess somebody can contest that for like 30 days. So that's coming out in August as well.
Exactly. Yeah, lots of things happening. And then it was really interesting what Brian Foote had tweeted out about us moving from, I wish I had that in front of me. Maybe I'll check it out. Let me pull that up real quick. Moving from the A to the B. Well, maybe you can enlighten us. What were they talking about there from A to B?
Okay, so I guess I should pull up that tweet too. His tweet, I quote, is as the market moves from a popular voting machine to be weighing machine, it means the fundamental execution of our product roadmap is the only thing that matters. We have full teams, partners, and agencies hard at work on all major pillars. So basically, the point being that right now it's the market for Humble is based on a popular sort of approach, like, oh, it's great, oh, it's not great, oh, it stinks, whatever. but it's going to be moving to a weighing machine, which means that it's going to be weighed
Substance.
based on the substance of the business. So, and then at the end, he says they've got all these teams working on all their major pillars. And I really liked this, or they said, where he said, they will deliver. So it really shows, you know, the confidence that he has in what they're doing, and he knows everything that they're doing. So that's, you know, pretty exciting too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in fact, I think that they even lined up that, you know, these pillars represent Humbl Pay, Humbl Financial, and the NFTs. And we know that in I believe early last month, in that meeting that Brian Foote had in New York City, he was depicted in a picture with the VP of Operations, Drew Foster, and then we have Jeffrey Hinshaw in that picture. So we got some big key people there with Humbl, and they were meeting up with David Well, who is a fintech blockchain person. He helps these companies to grow and develop and everything. And then also Warren Lorenz, and he's a tech meets trader. So, you know, there's lots of intricate things that are happening every day. I mean, when Brian Foote says he's never sleeping, I believe he must be just going from one cappuccino cup to another, because he's like here and then he's over there, right? So lots of really exciting things. And then, you know, I just want to bounce over to a topic that I've talked about on another video real quick. And that was when Brian Foote was at the summit, the DigiByte summit. And Jared, the founder of DigiByte, he created the first Digi asset and sent that electronically to track that Digi asset, or that torch, to Brian Foote. And then in that video, Brian he mentions some of the things that Brian Foote, that he's doing some amazing things. And so I just see that being so much more credibility to Brian Foote when you have somebody else who's already has a business that's established, and they recognize the things that are being done behind the scenes that we don't know, we don't see personally. So, you know, there's there's just so many things that are happening. We got the DAO, which was a decentralized autonomous network, that they registered on that. And then what do we have coming up? There's some things happening in August. So what can we expect in August, Tammy?
Well, the patents, also the iHeartRadio, they're supposed to be the first broadcast in August. And of course, you know, we'll start to see, once the blackout for the commendation and all that for the Olympics, for the winners, and we already know that Shelley and Fraser Price, I hope I said that right, that they weren't able to say anything because there's a blackout period. So it'll be exciting to see how those, you know, athletes that have been sponsored are utilized in, like, perhaps commercials and NFTs. Obviously, like, you know, we know a lot about NFTs, but they could also use this for promoting Humbl as far as in a commercial way, because a lot of times that's what athletes, when they're sponsored, are used for. So, you know, that's kind of an exciting approach as well that we can look forward to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you know, with everything that Humbl's already doing, and the partnerships that they're creating with, like, Athletes First, they have a partnership there, and then the ticketing acquisition, as well as Monster Creative, we're gonna start seeing some revenue coming in for Humbl, because now Humbl owns those other companies. Not to mention that Humbl is growing, so they're looking to acquire companies, and it seems kind of unusual to me how many companies that Humbl is acquiring in a very short period of time. What do you think about that?
Yes, it just really emphasizes that they're determined to grow at a rapid rate, and they're determined to corner the market on what they're doing. And they're not going after the most prestigious and the most, expensive companies. They're going after, you know, well-known, well-respected, but also affordable, so that they can get into those niches and incorporate them, which is exciting. And I also forgot to mention that the quarterly financials should be coming up soon as well. So that's another thing you were asking me about, August. So that's
Yeah, that's okay.
coming up. Yeah, it's going to be coming up soon, and it could come up like imminently, or it could be, usually I think by August 14th, I believe, in this case. So there's a lot to look forward to.
That's thing, yeah. You got the iHeartRadio podcast. It's gonna be launching this month. We've got the financials are gonna be coming out. And then if I'm not mistaken, I think Jeremy or one of them, they put out a little tweet saying that there was some shares that were restricted, which means we might be looking at another merger or acquisition with those restricted shares. What do you think about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So all of these little things, it's amazing because Humbl Nation is always picking up on every little nuance out there. So, not much is going to go beyond like the scope and eyes of Humbl Nation, but they are picking up on these things, and that was one of them. So yeah, that's pretty exciting because we can see that things are happening. We don't have an explanation to everything yet, obviously, but then again, he has been accommodating for these different things, because that does include some dilution, obviously, but he had preemptively, should I say, prepared for that when he retired the $100 million worth of shares on his part. So, the care for the shareholders is demonstrated there, but also the care for the shareholders is demonstrated by these acquisitions, because he's looking to make this a solid company that, everybody can really be sure. He's got all these verticals happening. It's got, there's going to be portions of it that might take off faster, but overall, he's setting himself up for success. They're setting Humbl up for success.
Yeah, and then they have some things that have been a little bit quiet as of late, but are definitely happening behind the scenes. Of stuff like in Chile, where they have that partnership that's going to help in the Latin American community. And I know Brian Foothead also mentioned that Humbl is looking to acquire a delivery service that's going to be servicing the Latin community, because they feel as though that's something that is going to be beneficial in those areas. And we're seeing that there's some improvements with the NFTs. So there's some more improvements and more things that are happening there. So likely in preparation. And I would not doubt that because we got the shareholder conference in Nashville, and was that in September, that there's going to be some things that happen between now and then. And not to mention that Brian Foot made that very bold statement that their goal is to drive revenue. That's always been their goal when they laid out the roadmap for the year, although Brian said he's trying to stay away from making promises. But he did mention about the $100 million in revenue that Humbl wants to do in ticket sales alone by the end of the year. So clearly they have to have some things that are happening behind the scenes. Then they're probably waiting for some of these things like the instant settlement network and some of these other patents to become finalized before they lay all their cards on the table. What do you think about that?
Absolutely. I feel like they've got, I really feel like they have so many things going on behind the scenes, and I'm sure that they would love to tell us all of it, and they're excited and they want to. And even Brian Foote alluded to that when he said that he would like to say more, but even as a startup, he is the CEO of a publicly traded company, so he's limited as to what he can say. He can't respond to a lot of things, but that doesn't mean that a lot of things aren't happening and that there isn't a lot in motion. There's absolutely a lot in motion. You can feel it, you can see it. You can see it with these, share structure changes and things like that. There's so much going on. So it's super exciting. I mean, I look forward, I'm patiently waiting because I can see the substance is there. I can't see behind the curtain, but I see all the evidence that there's a lot going on behind the curtain. The curtain's moving a lot. So, so it makes me, very confident in what the future of Humbl is. I feel absolutely, for myself, I feel absolutely confident in this investment.
Yeah, and I as well. It's funny because investing in other companies like Amazon and Tesla and Neo and Qualcomm and just a few others prior to Humbl. Those were investments. I saw the benefit. I made money on those stocks. Don't get me wrong. However, I never was excited about any of those stocks like I am about Humbl. Like I feel like I'm part of the journey. I get to dig in, do research, and figure out what they're up to, and then share that with the world, you might say, or whoever watches these videos. And so it's really neat to be a part of the experience. If somebody could be a part of Amazon when they first started and an investor, that would obviously those folks are doing pretty well today.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And so, this is, I made a comparison. I put it on Twitter. It was like, I think Tesla was at $3.66 a share 9 years ago, and I said, can you imagine where Humbl will be in 9 years from now? And I had several people on the Twitter say it won't even take that long for us to be, where Tesla is today, price wise. And I don't even know what the figure is right now, but I think they're trading somewhere between $400 and $500 a share. I haven't looked at it recently, but I want to say around there. And so, it just shows you how much potential there is pent up in Humbl. And I don't think we've really even seen the tip of the iceberg with Humbl. I mean, we have so many high level executive people that are working there Humbl, and they're working there for free. So for you to work somewhere for free, you have to really believe what you have is something substantial. And then, Brian, he always has those slides where he shows like Apple and Amazon, and Apple's like, working out of his garage when he first started, so all these big corporations, they had to start somewhere. And so Humbl is there. They're starting somewhere. And the name is going to really help Humbl to accelerate. And we're getting like, these athletes, with the Olympics, that's going to be helping to promote Humbl in the coming year. I can't wait to see what happens next year, because if we think about all the things that have happened this year, and this is at a startup phase, just the groundwork, laying all the foundation for everything. Next year, then we really start putting the nuts and bolts together, and things are really going to start flying. So we'll just have to keep patiently waiting, because patience is the game when you're talking about a new company.
Yeah, there's one other thing I wanted to mention, because I had the opportunity last weekend to jump on Spaces on Twitter, which some of the golden apes, right? So they're behind the whole, like, they're really trying to promote Humbl out there. Anyways, they had done a Spaces and invited Calvin Waite in there, and Calvin Waite, they were able to ask him a few questions, and there were some key takeaways for me. Basically, one, that he really felt that the ETX could be, the charges for the ETX for the monthly fees could be a lot higher. He feels it's totally validated, and he said that really Brian just wanted to provide an affordable, entrance for early investors. And that was really nice. And he appreciated that, even though he saw that there was more value in there, he felt, obviously, as a creator. But he just thought it was really neat. And another thing that I took away from that was that he said sometimes, at first you start this partnership or whatever, and it's like this honeymoon phase. But he says it really hasn't gotten over that. He says it's actually just gotten better. Like you have the honeymoon phase and then it just gets better and better. So I just thought that was really neat, because it shows that he really, he sees everything behind the curtain and he's super excited. It's not like he's waned his interest in that. Obviously, him just showing up on Spaces shows that he totally is invested. He's totally behind it. And he's totally behind the shareholders too, which I think is a common thread with the whole staff, with all the people at Humbl. And it just really just confirms, our feeling as outsiders, to be able to really feel really good about.
Yeah, and to that point, I think that it seems like a lot of the well, everybody that we see, of course, they're all like very excited. I think that some of these, just getting in front of some of these people, like the meeting that they had in New York City with like Athletes First, these different organizations, just getting in front of these people to talk to them is an accomplishment in itself. Athletes First, they deal with some pretty the upper class, you might say, of athletes as far as what they make and they represent. And so, it just, those things alone should give us as investors an indication of what kind of caliber of company we're dealing with here when it comes to being able to push the ball forward, you might say, and continue to grow. So they're not stagnant in any way. And a lot of companies, it could take them a year or 6 months to get in front of some of these people, if they ever do, and they're making it happen. And those are the things I look at when I'm investing in a company. I'm looking at how motivated is the team, or how enthusiastic are they? Are they consistent? Are they all over the place? But Humbl is very consistent in what they plan to accomplish. And again, going back to what I said earlier, the fact that they are not paying themselves, it should say a lot. Up to this point, they haven't made any money. That's dedication, and that's what you look for in a good company. They're not in it for the money. They're in it for accomplishment, to see and change the world as we know it.
Absolutely. It's very exciting to be on this journey, and it's fun that I can be on the journey with my family too, which is fun.
Yes, we're all the whole family's invested. Yeah, and F is included.
Yes.
So well, anyways, hey Tammy, it was really nice doing this Humbl video with you, and we hope the Humbl Nation will enjoy it as well. And for everybody else that's watching for the first time, I'm Nathaniel. This is my sister Tammy, and you have a great day.